Sometimes when you're driving down the road all by yourself, you begin to hear a voice that tells you need to look around, pay attention. Maybe something isn't quite right. That voice is me. It's the voice of Gord. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the show. Another quick little intro here for you before we get to my buddy Bruce. Today is Saturday, March 21st. This coming Tuesday, the 24th, is the official release date for my book you guys have been hearing me talk about for a while now, End of the Road, Inside the War on Truckers. It's been available for pre-sale for a few months now, and 2,000 copies have been sold already, which is pretty incredible. And if you are one of those folks, thank you very much. I hope you're enjoying it. And it's out there. It's a thing. I can't believe it. The gentleman who's about to be on this podcast here is an inspiration to me. He's been running a trucking podcast back home in Canada for over 10 years now, the Lead Pedal Podcast. And we had a discussion here about, all the issues going on in the business and our respective passions for the industry. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's going to be a co-release. Bruce is going to put it on his podcast and I'm going to have it on mine. So you might see it floating around out there, and that's just fine. We're both going to put it out. So I hope you enjoy. If you haven't ordered my book yet, please do so. There'll be links in the show notes, creedandculture.com. You can get it on Amazon if you like. If you're in Canada, it's available at Indigo. But this is the big week. I got another major interview coming down the pipe. Waiting to find out when they're going to release it. That's not up to me, but you guys are going to want to pay attention to that. So, smash that subscribe button here at Substack if you don't want to miss anything. If you're on another podcasting platform, hit subscribe there, whatever you got to do. Tell your friends, pass it around. I really appreciate y'all listening. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, corrections, or hate mail, direct them to me, gordilocks at protonmail.com. And go check out Bruce's show, the Lead Pedal Podcast. He's been at it for a long time. Real great guy. Let's get to him right now. Thanks so much and talk soon.
Everybody on the line, I've got Gordon McGill, or better known as, what are you better known as? Gord, welcome to the show. You're doing everything. I don't even know what you're known for anymore.
Hi, Bruce.
Trucker, author.
Welcome to the co-production between the Lead Pedal Podcast and the Voice of Gord. We're going to interview each other and splice and dice and release them on both of our platforms. Both podcasters, both truckers, both passionate about the industry.
Yeah.
And I've been on your show, I think, like 3 or 4 times already, and I've never had you on mine, so I'm trying to return the favor.
Well, thank you. People do that on purpose, though. We don't need that guy. You were on 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2023. For some reason, there must have been COVID and we didn't talk for 2 years. I don't know why.
Oh, man. Or just busy because I was working my bag off during COVID when I was hauling propane and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing now? Because I follow you and you've got more stuff going on. You just written a book. We're going to get into that. You're on this thing. I'm not on this thing called Substack, but I know it's for writers and stuff like that. And I know you're very active on that. You're obviously on Twitter all the time. tell us what because when I last talked to you, I think you were just starting the Voice of Gord, your podcast. So to kind of bring us up to date from like 2023, what's going on?
All right. So, wow, that's 3 years ago now. Holy cow. Time flies, Bruce.
I know I'm getting older.
It flies faster than a wheel coming off on the 401. So 2023, I launched my Substack and my podcast right around the same time. I think I started the Substack about 6 months before I started recording podcasts.
Right.
Substack, as you mentioned, is a writer's platform. It has its own internal social media called Notes. It will host audio, so I can host my podcast and the RSS feeds to all the other platforms. And I had been writing for a few other notable places such as Newsweek and the American Conservative, and I've been doing a few different things. And my friend Oliver, who's also a podcaster and very prolific writer here in the US, said, "Hey man, you should check out this Substack thing. You can say what you want, do what you want. It's got a built-in word processor. You just dial it all in. It's a super easy plug and play blogging platform." So I start doing that. 2003, I was still hauling logs until July. I got laid off, and I haven't turned a wheel since. So I get crap from people about this, because you know what truckers are like, right? If you get out of the business for too long, you're no longer part of the game, right? So I got laid off from my logging job when the hardwood market here collapsed, and between that and the state of the industry and two young kids at home, I haven't worked very hard to try and get another trucking job. There's not that many good ones. So I've been doing other things. My brother-in-law's got this like specialty HVAC sealing injection company, and I help him once in a while. And I also work construction. So I work for a sort of architecture design build firm. So, slap together frames, build roofs, build floors, whatever. And on the side, I do an awful lot of writing about the industry, because much like yourself, I'm kind of aghast at what it looks like today. And yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
Oh wow! So your sounds just as busy. I don't agree that if you're not driving, because I haven't pulled a wheel in probably 20 years. I don't agree that you're not part of the industry just because you're not driving. The guys who say that, I disagree with. I think I'm still very much in the industry. I mean, I was covering an event the other day talking about Red Seal certification. I go to all the conferences. I mean, I've got a media business as part of the industry. So I still feel, I mean, I'm not driving, but I still feel like a trucker at heart. I still feel as I'm part of this industry. So I'm not sure if you're not driving. Don't listen to them.
Hey, so I got a question for you. Would it be fair to say that you have the biggest trucking podcast in Canada? Like trucking specific podcast?
I don't know if I've got the biggest. I hate to say that. I'm hoping I'm one of the top. I think I'm one of the top 4 or 5. There's a couple in Quebec that, because I don't speak French, I'm not sure if they're bigger or number. I mean, social media numbers don't really give you the proper thing, because my social media numbers are not the biggest. So if we're going by that, I'm certainly not the biggest.
Oh no, mine neither.
Yeah. Yours are really good. I see yours at the top, but I just I try to be a very positive voice for the industry, and I'm for sure one of the largest in Ontario. I know there's a couple Alberta podcasts that have started. There's, like I say, a couple Quebec podcasts. There's some people in the US that kind of like yourself that talk about Canada and the US. I've just found out there's another one out in BC or something. I think I might be talking. Somebody was just email introduction. So there's a few around. You probably know this, being a podcaster yourself. We are at 1,500 episodes. So if you're talking about longevity, we just hit 10 years last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think if you're talking longevity, we are probably one of the longest as far as that goes.
Yeah, no, credit to you for continuing to, discuss the industry and continuing to care about it and highlighting various issues. That's why I like you so much, Bruce.
Thanks.
You'll have to send me a list of those other shows. Canada remains like a bit of a weird zone for me. Like, even though I'm from there, even though I talk about it a lot, even though I still love the place, the Canadian media ignore me. I might as well not exist. The social media stuff, as you say, is a bit chimeral. Like, it's sometimes not real. And, I have like, I don't know, 11,000 followers on Twitter, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, if I release a podcast, it gets 300 listens on average. Yep. I think the best one I've ever done is 3,000, and then at the low end, like 100. So it's not, whatever. It's a passion project, right? Like, I like to talk to people. I like to learn about others, and I want to share that with folks. And so, my show has never had advertisers. I don't have any sponsors. It's not attached to anything except me. And the whole point of it is to be a gift to my fellow drivers, to have something interesting to listen to going down the road. And I hope I've accomplished that.
Yeah, no, it's no, and that's fine. And like I mean, with the social media, I don't. I won't pay what they like. I used to pay, and I got up to like, I don't know, on Facebook. I think we got like 10,000 followers. How many of those are actually hearing or seeing? The numbers look good, but really, at the end of the day, but what I find interesting is when I go to an event, or it just happened the other day. I go, and a guy says, he came up, he said, I just wanted to introduce myself. I listen to your podcast all the time. I had an email the other day, probably about a month ago, from a guy I don't even know. He's in Texas or somewhere. He says, please keep up the good work. I play your podcast in our room sometime when I'm talking to new drivers. Pick specific topics or something. So, it's those conversations where people are going, hey, yeah, I listen to you. Like they say, 99% of the internet does not say anything. Like I don't comment if I don't like someone's. I'm not good. Oh, you did the love. I ain't got that kind of time. If I don't like your stuff, I just won't listen to you again.
Just keep scrolling. Yeah, keep scrolling. Yeah,
it's just like a restaurant. I'll move on. I won't complain about the food unless I get direly sick. I will just move on to a restaurant that I do like. So it's the same idea. So I don't worry about that. What I found for me is just to be consistent. I do have sponsors on our podcast. As you know how much work this is to do, and equipment is not cheap and all that stuff. After a while you kind of go, I need to make some money to make this worth doing, but that doesn't change the passion I have for doing it. Like I didn't start it to make money. I started it, and then after a while you go, okay, what opportunities are there with that? So I think it's quite different. I mean, when Sirius came out, everybody was the same, right? Oh, we're gonna go on Sirius because there's no commercials. Well, you're paying for that. All you're doing is you're paying you're the sponsor. That's how it's working now, right? So it's whatever people choose. I feel I'm just doing what I can do as a good job, and hopefully people are enjoying it.
Yeah, well, anything that's free, you are the product, right? So, like, yeah. Twitter is free unless you buy a subscription. I was gifted one by somebody because they like what I'm doing, and they know that I'm a broke, useless hippie that pretended to be a truck driver for a long time. So,
I want to talk about so your podcast is still going on. Voice of Gord is still going on.
Yeah, I'm recording one right now. Okay. I'm recording another one tomorrow. I'm releasing another episode on Monday or Tuesday. There was a little bit of a hiatus. I didn't really record or release anything for a better part of 3 months, just because I've been too busy and book stuff and just work and being tired and life and family. So, but we're back on track. I've got 2 out so far this year. I got another one coming out tomorrow or on this next week. I'm recording with Chase Barber again from Edison Motors tomorrow. As I mentioned earlier, Craig Fuller from Freight Lace is coming back on the show to talk about his book, Moving the World. There's a young lady in Arizona who's a kind of professional photographer and a trucker, and she takes all these beautiful photos of the southwest of the country. So I'm going to get her on. And just whatever crosses my bow. If I think you're an interesting person and would be worthwhile to talk to, I'll send you an email and invite you on the show.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, you've had some interesting guests in conversations, and I know you're very, even though you may not be driving right this minute, you are still very involved in what's going on down there. So I'm almost afraid to ask this question. What's going on? I mean, we hear we've got the same issues going on here, Canada. So it's not like we're any better when it comes to that. But kind of what's the big issues other than what we hear on the news by the political guys? What's the big issues you're hearing or talking about in the industry down there?
Yeah, there's so many. Where to even start? I mean, it's been a very interesting the last year, like 2025. Was it was a very, very important year for trucking insofar as a lot of the problems we're seeing were highlighted by the mainstream media. We had this crash in Florida in August, which basically soaked up the news cycle for 2 solid weeks, which never happens in trucking. Yep. We've had a number of moves from the Trump administration to deal with some of these problems. And then the problems just keep happening. There's seems to be a new collision every single day, some new tragedy. and everyone in the United States is like, what happened to the trucking industry? It's like for as long as it's sort of been ignored as this like magic thing that delivers all our groceries and makes life happen, and truckers are kind of an afterthought, or part of an old cultural legacy, all the movies from the 70s and CB radios and Smokey and the Bandit and all that. And we were kind of like, we were there, but not thought about too much in recent times. And now it's everywhere. Part of that is social media and like instantaneous sharing of dash cam videos and horrific footage. And it's just, the industry is under some pretty intense scrutiny at the moment. And I think it's, obviously it's under intense scrutiny for the wrong reasons. There's lots of problems, but you can't solve problems until you talk about them. And there's lots of chatter about the trucking business online and in the mainstream media, or at least one half of the mainstream media anyway.
Yeah, it's amazing how we went from being awesome in the pandemic to being dirt. Now like where it's just, I don't know if you're having these discussions down in the States. Up here, we are doing a lot of talk, and we're having all the same issues. We are having crashes. I'm sure you remember hearing about Humboldt, the hockey team that was hit a few years ago. We just had another bus hit by a truck probably about a week or so ago, I think out in BC. And it's just, we all saw the Florida incident, and I'm thinking, who would even think that making a U-turn on the highway would be a good idea at any point? Like, no matter whether you missed your eggs or not. Like, I couldn't believe that. So we're talking about Red Seal up here, about, in the construction industry or the skilled trades they have, you become a carpenter or electrician, you move up the ladder as you get certificates. That's the big discussion going on here, along with training over the last 2 years here. Are they talking about anything like that down in the States?
A little bit, not the Red Seal stuff so much. That's actually something that really bothers me, is the lack of recognition for what we do. And kudos. So the Red Seal discussion in Canada, Devin Durishan, who's the transportation minister in Alberta, is looking into working on that. And as I understand it, that's starting to filter out into other provinces, but they're sort of leading the way, which is great. But here in the U.S., the training thing has been the sort of discovery that CDL mills, who've sort of always been with us, but they were typically owned by big companies or whatever, under a change in regulation during the Biden administration, this entry-level driver training program, which was similar to what happened in Canada with MELT, except it was immediately parasitized, abused, and used for the opposite of what it was meant to do.
Us too.
And so now you have all these scummy little truck driving schools advertising to various groups that they can get their CDL in a week and then go trucking. And that's the United States DOT is looking at clamping down on that. They've already decertified a number of schools, and thank God Secretary Duffy's been on the warpath on some of this stuff, and in the ways that he can be. The wheels of government bureaucracy are greased with cold molasses. Yep. So some of this stuff takes a little while, but like, he's making some moves, and definitely front and center down here.
Yeah, we had the same thing. We went from, I think before the pandemic, and I'm part of, I work with a lot of the training schools up here. We had like 50 schools that were, audited and doing their thing. We went up to 200 and I think the last count was something like 260, and they're now starting to clamp down. We've been calling on, Ministry of Transportation and, the MCU, they're the college people who overrate colleges, to start, and they finally now, because there's been enough noise, we're starting to see a few schools shut down and stuff. Not enough. There's not enough officers to do it. There's not enough people. I know at the conversation I was at the other day, they're now looking at finding a group, like basically transportation has to self-police itself. There has to be some body within there, because if we're waiting on government, we're going to wait forever and we're never going to solve the problems. So out of your opinion, out of what you're seeing, how do we fix this, Gord? Let's fix this. Come on. I gotta go by 11. So let's fix this industry now and get on with it, shall we? What do you think we should do to, I'm really big into the certification thing. I, like yourself, drove for 25 years. I've been in this industry for 40. And if you look in my file, other than the few times I changed some little old lady's tire at the side of the road, there's, in a few courses I've taken, there's nothing really in there to show, hey, this guy's got 40 years of experience. So what are you seeing on your side? What do you think we need to do to change this, other than just shutting everybody down? We need new drivers, all of that kind of stuff, right?
You brought up some good points there on the recognition side of it. So there's two things I'll say. The recognition of service for guys like you and I is just not there. Nobody cares. And, I've had difficulty with that here in the US. Like when I moved here 10 years ago, I would show guys my resume, drove road trains in Australia, did all this logging, heavy hauled fuel in the oil patch in Alberta. I've done all this stuff. And like, I'll just get like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Well, here, we'll pay you $14 an hour. Like they're specifically in the trucking industry, accomplishment is not recognized at all. And in fact, because of some quirks with the way the insurance system works down here, if you take a break from trucking, let's say you like get out from behind the wheel and do other things like I have and you have, that counts against you. So like, even if you've got all these years of experience, doesn't matter. You stepped out of the truck for 2 years, you're reset to zero. So that has to stop. We have to have some recognition and some like much higher pay, and material conditions need to be improved, and you need to keep the good guys around. That's not happening. On the entry side, I've been harping on about this for years. I think we need to impose a graduated licensing system like they have in New Zealand and Australia. Everybody in the industry doesn't want to do that because that cuts off their flow of easy, quickly trained bodies. So all the big trucking associations are against that, even though they harp all day long about, oh, we need better trained drivers. Okay, here's the system by which you can do that. Oh, no, not that way. So they're hypocrites, and I won't get into that. But yeah, but the training stuff has to have teeth. It can't be self-certified truck driving schools saying, oh, we do this 6-week course and everything's fine. There has to be like time limits. And I think the way the Kiwis and the Aussies do it, where you do 1 year of driving like a straight job, like a Class D, and then after that year has passed, you can move on to a trailer. You have to have some exceptions to that. Obviously, there's some guys who are really good. Some guys work on farms or rural areas where that's not going to work. So you have to like figure out an exemption program to that as well. But for the vast majority of people who come into the trucking industry, don't know anything about it, have never really got, they don't have any experience, I believe a graduated licensing system would greatly improve things.
It's funny because at the conference I was at the other day, that's the exact question I was going to ask. Because when you look at yourself and myself and a lot of others, that's exactly how I learned. And I didn't go to a school. I was, when I started in the 80s, there was no school, but I drove straight truck for a couple of years. I actually started just carrying the furniture. I wasn't even driving the truck. I was carrying the furniture in and out of the truck. And then I got my straight truck for a couple of years. And then I worked for the North American at the van lines I was at. They would allow you as a straight truck guy to take a load to like Montreal or Ottawa. And you didn't have to pay for the truck, but you had to pay for your own fuel. You had to hire your own help, and you had to kind of do it within a 2-day thing. And it kind of gave you an idea of what it's like to kind of be in business and owner operator and all that. And then I went into, I was, driving city for a long time, a trailer, before I actually started doing highway. So it was very graduated. And I think that's what I don't see, though, there's a lot of companies that are not going to be able to do that. What happens to all those companies that only have trailers, only have highway? Are we going to be able to do that? I think that's what we need to do. I'm like you. I'm not sure how that process would work. I can see there's going to be a lot of issues with that. There's not enough straight trucks around, right?
Yeah, no, there's issues with that. There's incentives, and I spoke with a guy in BC about this. oh man, what was his name? Andy Roberts, Mountain Training Institute out of Castlegar, BC. Legitimate actual school. Um, American companies send experienced drivers that already have years under their belts to him to learn how to navigate the mountains properly. Good dude, and he brought up similar concerns about how does this work? How does it work for certain companies? And to that I say, well, you got to get creative. And again, we're talking about getting in the industry at the beginning and then keeping people around. So the getting new people and training them and freaking out about, oh, there's not enough straight job work in order to train all these people, that's less of an issue if you don't have the retention problem and people quitting all the time, right? So like these things are related, and I know it's hard and economics are what they are, but the industry and its perception by the public has reached a sort of crisis point where we can't ignore this any longer. And there's too many guys like you or I who've got reams and reams of experience that should be out there. We're not the only ones. There's tons of guys out there with great experiences, fantastic records, awesome drivers, and they're not driving because the industry will not treat them properly, will not recognize their skill, will not pay them properly, will do nothing to show that they honor those guys' experience and competencies. That has to change.
You have something in the States that we don't have here in Canada, where you have where it's all certificates on their license. So like, let's say they want to be, you take a tanker, you're a tanker driver, you'd have it on your license. Here we don't. We have it based on the company you work for. So I never ran B trains. I never ran, a lot of stuff because I didn't work for those kind of companies. I worked for companies that didn't have that kind of equipment. Is that working in the States? Because I think if we go to a certified system, that's going to be part of it where it will show up in your license. But I guess the question has been, if I don't drive tanker for 5 years, am I ever, even though I've got it on my license, am I better off or not? What's your thoughts on that? Because I know in the States they have it where it's actually part of your license.
Yeah, different states will have different endorsements required to haul certain products or certain types of combinations, or you need to have a doubles endorsement in a lot of states to pull those little pup trailer wiggle wagons. And then you have places like New York State Thruway, Indiana Toll Road, where you have 248s. That's, the toll roads and turnpikes have their own sets of rules and regulations and licensing stuff, which we could learn something from. A lot of the problems we're seeing out there today do not involve those guys. I think like if you're, most of your tanker guys and hazmat guys and heavy equipment guys and doubles guys are not the ones getting in all the trouble. It's the, single trailer truckload freight market, which sucks in all these people. Yep. And how all of those endorsement systems work state to state, I can't really comment on because I've only ever really lived in New York. Now I have a license here, I have a CDL, I have a CDL. I changed it over from an Ontario Class A. But so far so good. That seems to work. It's the getting your foot in the door period with a CDL is where the major problem is.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited to see. They say 5 years, and I was actually at that event we had yesterday. Was where Alberta announced. So they say June. I think they said June 2027 is when it's starting for sure. The conversations are going on. I've got a couple episodes coming up in the near future talking about that and recapping that event. So it's going to be interesting. I know sometimes Gord, I know your show, so I'm afraid to talk some of this up. And immigration and trucking. Do I even bring this up?
I mean, you can. Why not? Why beat around the bush? I'll be nice.
No, that's not you. No, because trust me, I had this conversation the other night. Everybody's got their opinion on it. I have an opinion on it. But I'm trying not to go down or sound like the racist way because I know a lot of good people in all cultures and there's good and bad and all. But I know a lot of the problems we're having is tied to immigration and the way people come in. They somehow come into they get immigrated into the country by somebody who sponsors them. So they're now tied to that trucking company. And then we got a whole Driver Inc. thing going on up here, which I don't know if you have in the States, but people kind of being incorporated, being their own business, but they're really employees, that kind of thing. is that, I think fixing part the immigration problem is part of the problem we have to fix. And I don't know if anybody's actually having those conversations. Are they having them down there without
definitely
without sounding over the top here? I guess.
no, they're definitely, that conversation is definitely taking place in the United States. In fact, it's probably one of the number one federal level issues. And obviously that bleeds over into trucking, because what's happened is all of these systems have been abused, right? So in Canada, it was the temporary foreign worker program. And then, all these sort of like a lot of people from the sort of Punjabi community that got into trucking never came here as truck drivers. They came here as students to some, fake diploma mill to do something else, get to Canada after they've paid some recruiter back home like 30 grand to get here, get the visa, show up, find out that it's a scam. And then they look around going, well, what can I do to make money? And they get into trucking. And a lot of those folks have no idea how to drive. They may not have ever driven in India. And then you have the same thing in the US where, the previous administration's open borders policy let in tens of millions of people into the country. And then various states, DMVs, dropped the requirements to get a CDL. And then the Biden administration did this stuff with the ELDT thing. So what you see happening is like, people show up and they're like, hey, I got to do something. So they get into trucking, they figure they're going to make money. And then the holes in all of these systems beget other systems, which, abuse those people, right? So like in 2019, the Globe and Mail did a report on this in Canada, where the TFW program had sort of created this like cottage industry in British Columbia of bringing young guys from India to Canada and then just throwing them in trucks and sending them down the road with almost no training. The money being made by these companies was made on the fees that the guys would pay to get here, not on actually trucking. You see similar systems set up in the United States. In the US, it's just crazy. It's like the entire world. Everybody in the United States, everybody in the world is represented in the American trucking industry. There's massive penetration of guys from Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan. Then you got the Balkan dudes, Moldova, Serbia. There's like a whole Serbian trucking subculture here. The Ukrainians, the Russians, and guys from India. It's the entire world has decided that the American trucking industry is going to be their remittance pay peg. And to hell with the rules, to hell with training standards. If some guy gets caught by ICE and deported, whatever, we'll just throw another one in the truck. A lot of these trucking companies that hire these guys are owned by those guys, subcontracting to Amazon, FedEx, United States Postal Service, and a lot of big mega carriers in the United States now, guys like JB Hunt, Werner, Knight Swift. You go on their website and they're advertising their power only subcontractor thing. Get on our app, move our trailers, we'll keep your trucks moving. The whole point of that power only thing is to take advantage of this ecosystem of outsiders coming into the United States. So now, hey, you and I both know, a lot of your listeners and your sponsors will know, owning and operating a truck is a pain in the butt. It's expensive. Insurance is expensive. Compliance is expensive. Trucks are depreciating assets as soon as you buy them. Like it's hard. It's a hard business. It's got low profit margins. So these mega carriers in the US are just copying Amazon and FedEx and saying, why even bother with the trucks? We'll just download that to everyone else. And because of these various complexes and the holes in immigration enforcement, holes in CDL trading, holes in all these different areas, just the whole system is being, for lack of a better term, parasitized. And while that's happening, thousands of American trucking companies have gone out of business. Like, I think I read somewhere something like 8,000 companies have closed in the last 4 years. Yep. Right. And so, there was an incident that happened here in Indiana a couple of weeks ago. A gentleman from Kyrgyzstan driving a truck comes to stop traffic on a 2-lane road, doesn't put it in the field to the right, goes to the left, hits a van head on with all these Amish guys, kills 4 of them. And, it turns out the company he works for, also run by people from Kyrgyzstan. And there was an associated company in this group of companies in Chicago. And there's like a video of the dude who owns it, who's like bragging about how, yeah, all the, despite the great freight recession, despite all the stuff happening in America, I have 500 trucks now. Look at me. Right. So I have all these American companies closing. People can't keep their businesses operating. And some dude from Kyrgyzstan just shows up and now I have 500 trucks. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah. So how do we fix it? We don't.
Well, no, I mean it's a complex thing, and like
I
so
know.
um I've been in discussions with some politicians here in the US. You know, I have this book coming out. They've seen my writing in other places, and I'm advising a senator from Indiana. My local congressperson has their researcher contacted me a few weeks ago to ask about a couple of bills in Congress and what I thought about them. And so, you know, as I said to you, you know, like it's good that we're talking about this and doing this podcast. And maybe we don't have huge social media followings or whatever, but like when these problems come up in trucking, there are people looking for solutions, and then they come to guys like you and me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's important too. And you know, I'm trying. We're seeing all the same stuff you just mentioned, and I'm trying very hard not to paint everybody under the same brush because I know that we're all different, and I know lots of drivers who have come from other countries and are good drivers. You know, they're doing what. So it's very hard to, you know, we've got the whole thing going on. I don't even know how we're going to do that. Let's talk about your book. You titled the book. You titled a book called "The End of the Road." Is it? I almost feel like we're at the end of the road. Is it based on where we're going here, or what? Tell us about your book.
So I've been writing about trucking. I've had this sort of, um something of an interesting career, Northwest Territories, Australia, New Zealand, I've had a pretty cool career, and like yourself, I decided to start writing about the industry and podcasting, and like, hey, we have these problems, let's try and figure it out. And a new publishing company that only just started here recently was looking around for authors, because the sort of mantra of this company is like, we want to publish people who are saying things that are like really intelligent and interesting, but they're not credentialed. They're not part of the university press system. They're not big name authors, so the mainstream press isn't going to pick them up and offer them a book deal. So we want to find people writing in various areas of American life that might not get a chance to write, So these guys find my Substack. They're like, hey, you got some interesting stuff here. If you were to write about a book about trucking, what would it look like? Give us a proposal. So I gave them a proposal. They accepted it. They said, please write this book. They gave me a tiny little advance. And while we were thinking about the title, End of the Road just kind of jumped out, because the trucking industry and truck drivers, I mean, the book is basically asking a question about the fate of the North American trucker in 2026. And it sort of looks at all of the changes that have happened since the deregulatory measures of the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. Similar legislation follows in Canada a few years later. Market opens up, all these different crazy things start happening, and we've been dealing with it ever since. But like a lot of guys like to blame it purely on deregulation, but it's not that simple. Deregulation started a bunch of stuff happening, and then other things have happened, and then it gets compounded. And then this problem leads to that regulation or that policy, and that makes it worse. And then there's another problem, and it just kind of, it's snowballed. And so my book is a look at how all of that sort of happened. And it's also a little bit of a memoir, because like I would bore you to death if all I talked about was like, trucking nerdery. I mean, you and I would read it and be happy, but nobody else would. So I had to figure out a way to like, make it interesting to a person reading the book who doesn't know anything about trucking, right?
Right.
So every chapter starts with an anecdote or a story from my own career, and then I'll get into an issue in the business, and then go from that story to the issue, and then I'll discuss the history of the issue, where it intersects with political change, bad economics, whatever we're seeing out there. And so I've got 13 chapters plus an intro and a conclusion. And I think
how big is this book? It's got to be about 2,000 pages, right?
No. Oh man. No, it's funny you mentioned that. So the main part of the book of the writing is 250. And then there's like, another 50 pages of notations and citations and links and resources.
Oh, okay. I can handle that.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is my editor ended up cutting out about 60 or 70 pages worth. It was going to be over 300. And my publisher said that, like, look, dude, like, you could write an encyclopedia about this, but we're not publishing encyclopedias. people are going to want to read it. And if it's like this big, 400, 500 pages, no one's going to read it. And I guess there's some book sales metrics that show that like once a book exceeds 300 pages, the sales start to go down. Like somebody will order a book online and they'll like read the reviews and they'll check it out. And then they'll say, oh, it's over 300 pages. So I can't read all that. And they just won't buy it. Apparently, I am told this by my publisher. I don't know. I've never written a book before. So
I can verify that is true, and the reason I could say that very much because I am a voracious reader. I love to read. I have my own. I call it my own university. I document it every month. I'm reading a book, but I'm a slow reader. I read every word, which is apparently not the way you're supposed to read books. And so if a book is more than 300 pages, I'm going, oh man, I can't finish that in a month. That's going to take me. I love short chapters because I feel like I'm really moving along because I can read a chapter and put it away for the day and then move on. So I one of these people, if I see things 400 or 500 pages, I usually don't start. It's like a series on Netflix. If I see there's a series, I go, I'm not going to make it past episode 2, so there's no sense starting. I prefer a movie that I know I could get done in 2 hours and move on. So there is some truth to that. So I think so. Is it the trucking books that I've read in the past from people have a lot of the lingo from the industry. And so someone who's in trucking gets it, but somebody who's not in trucking, is yours like that? Or have you kind of tried to keep some of that stuff out of there as you're writing?
I mean, there's a little bit of it, but I don't beat people over the head with it. And I don't I don't use the sort of stereotypical CB lingo phrases throughout the book. It's like I say, it's sort of a cross between a memoir, a PhD thesis, and just like an investigative research book. Like it's a bunch of different things. I don't know if I'm going to accomplish what I set out to do by having it be all those things at once. But again, I've never written a book before. So we'll see. But like, yeah, I don't, I don't talk and trucker talk throughout the book very much.
Right. How long did it take you to write it? I've written 6 books, so I know that writing a book is not easy. How long did it take? Because I think you've been writing this for at least a couple years. If my memory's probably not correct, but seems like it's been a while. I've been hearing you talk about it at least.
Yeah, I was approached in November 2024, so basically 15, 16 months ago. I started writing it in earnest in January of last year, and the final manuscript was done basically at the end of October, beginning of November. So there was a whole process, right? Like I would write a chapter, I'd send it to my editor, we would go back and forth, and I would keep writing. I would have like segments. I had like 8 chapters on the go in different windows in my computer. And I'm reading all these other books, and I'm like trying to get into the fine-grained details of like other people's writings that I've read before. Like I cite a lot of other authors and researchers, I might have read their book 5 years ago. So I had to like go back and find stuff. And I spent a lot of time at Cornell because I'm only 8 miles from Cornell University, and all their libraries are open to the public. So I was hanging out there with my laptop, just like banging away at it. But basically, just under a year. Some of the stuff that's in it that I inserted in various chapters was already written. Like I've taken it out of my Substack, out of articles I've written before, and then like made it fit into the sort of larger thing I'm saying in each chapter. So I mean, some of it was kind of pre-written, I suppose.
Yeah, very cool. Where can people? We're gonna be able to get it. Is it out now? We're doing this. It's February, the end of February, 2026. When's it coming out, or is it out already?
So it officially releases next month, March 24th. So we're like 3.5 weeks away. You can pre-order it basically anywhere. Amazon. If you're listening in the United States, I would recommend you go directly to my publisher, because that way we make more money. creedandculture.com. If you're in Canada, you can order it through Chapters indigo.ca, and then just punch in End of the Road. It's there. People are already pre-ordering it. I found out from my publisher early this week that it's already got 1,000 pre-sales, which I think is pretty good.
For you. Good for you, man. Congratulations. It's a hard job, and it's good that, great that you got a publisher that takes it on, because a lot of times we self-publish these things. And, congratulations. I mean, it's another feather in the cap. Like, look what you're doing, Gordon. You've done it all, man, from trucking all around the world to writing about it. I think that's great. Congratulations. It's awesome. It's awesome.
I appreciate that, sir, because I'm full of self-doubt and my own low self-esteem sometimes, and I don't actually think I know what I'm doing, but I guess I've done some interesting stuff, so why not write about it? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be good. I'm looking forward to reading it. I will be getting a copy for sure once it comes out. So it's now, did you have questions for me? I've had a lot of questions for you. I don't know if you even had any questions for me, but
this is where Voice of Gord takes over.
All right.
Now it's now turned from lead pedal to Voice of Gord. So one of the reasons I wanted to get you on, over and above returning the favor of being on your show so many times, is there's a word you keep using, right? So like, you put out your newsletter, you put out your podcast, you go to all these meetings and conferences, and you're heavily involved in the industry back home. You keep using this term, passion. We have to have a passion for the industry. We have to have a passion for what we're doing. And I really dig that. And I want to know what you mean by it. I want you to drill down into what passion means to you, why you started using that particular term, and sort of where it fits into like your project.
Okay. Well, it's funny because it actually goes back to my teenage years, but to give you an example, my wife, who we just celebrated 25 years this year, we met. We were at the same company. We were at a chemical company. She worked in customer service. I was one of the drivers on the fleet. And other than, daily life, I probably never really talked about trucking other than, here's what I'm doing this week, or here's my run, or whatever it is. Since I've stopped driving, I've attended almost every truck show I can. I'm really into the events. And she goes, all you do is talk about trucks and trucking. And she goes, I never knew that for the first, 10 years we were together or something like that. So the passion actually starts from my childhood. So I came from a family that my dad, they're from Guyana. So they were immigrant. They came up to Canada the year before I was born. I was born in Canada. But my dad was an accountant. My mom worked for the airline. There's no trucking, not like your family where your dad was a trucker, all that stuff. There's no pre-trucking. I didn't even know what a truck was other than I used to throw snowballs at them when I was walking to school. That's about all I knew about trucking. But at 17, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I hated school. I'm an artist as well, and you know that. But nobody said, I used to draw my notebooks. I'd get detention. Nobody said go to art school. I didn't know what I was going to do. I know I didn't want to be an accountant. I did not like classes. I would prefer to hang out in the parking lot with my friends in their cool cars than. So when I got a job, and I just got a job because I quit school, my dad said, you're not sitting, this is back when parents actually did parenting, and said, you're not sitting around all day while I go to work and your mom goes to work and think you're going to sit here on the couch, So he would actually take me to a coffee shop, drop me off. He said, you can't come home till 5 o'clock at night. Basically took my key away. And he charged me rent. The day I quit, he said, your rent's due on Monday. So I got a job at a moving company and fell into it. I was this size in high school, so I started moving furniture. And then I saw that the guy driving was the boss in a moving crew. The driver is the boss for the most part, and was lifting less because they're folding pads and getting paid more money. And I thought, that's interesting. And I liked the idea of going to different places every day and meeting different people. And I really excelled at that. Like I thought, wow, this is kind of a cool job. I didn't know what I was getting into. Fast forward that, 40 years, and I'm going, and I don't know, do you know Chuck Snow at all, Gord? Do you know, he owns Traffic's, he's retired now. He owns Traffic, but he's got a big old truck collection here. Have you probably met him at Matt's. He's always at Matt's, bald Jewish guy. but Chuck Snow and I did an interview, and he said the same thing. He said, where would I be if there wasn't for the trucking industry? And this is how I feel. If you look at the statistics, you drop out of high school, you're an artist, so you don't like to do anything, with structure, basically, is what they say. where would I have been? Would I have been in jail? Would I have been? I could not think right now of another career I would have rather gone into other than being a professional artist, which I am in my other business. But other than that, I cannot think of, like, I'm terrible at construction, so I'm not getting into that. I think of all the skilled trades. Finance, I can't stand working with numbers that way. Media wasn't around in 1975, so I didn't know you could be a podcaster. I didn't even think of broadcasting. Nobody suggested, radio DJs do pretty good. They got loud mouths. Nobody suggests. So I'm thinking, where would I have been? That's why, thank God for trucking. Thank God. Look at the life it's given me over the years. It's kept food and shelter for my family and myself. I've maybe not done some of the cool things you've done. I still want to go on a road train and all that, but I've worked for some pretty cool companies, had some pretty nice rides, seen the country, made decent money, I feel, and I'm now using that expertise, hopefully, to help the future. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because, and if we go to the truck shows, because the fleet that I was with is similar to the one that you and your dad work for, is like, the people who actually took care of those rides and that professionalism of the industry is the way that I operated, the way that my friends that I respect, the way they operated. And I feel we've really lost that. That's been a big problem in this industry. I mean, you would never go down the road with duct tape holding your fender on back in 1979, right? So I'm very passionate. I want it to come back to that, because there was so much fun. Even my kids, my son goes, he doesn't want to do anything about trucking. He goes, Dad, I don't want to work the way you did. What they're missing. Yeah, I was gone a lot. I missed birthdays, all that stuff. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the camaraderie of the road. I enjoyed the trucks. I enjoyed seeing new places. Made pretty good money over the years, considering. And, so I'm passionate about it. There's no secret to it other than that.
Yeah, well, I certainly feel that. It's been good to me too. I've been around trucks my whole life. Dad was a trucker. My uncle Chris started Lakeside Logistics. Big freight broker in Ontario, and my grandpa worked for Norton Motor Lines before they got bought out by Atomic, who later got bought out by TCT, who later disappeared. But anyway, my family history goes back a long way in the Canadian trucking business, and I like yourself, I think that's why it resonated so much with me, this idea of passion, because it's done so much. And I mean, that's part of the reason I accepted this offer to write a book. Like, here's this thing that's done my family so well. It's done a lot of families so well. And it like serves the economy. Like, it makes everything work, and where would we be without it? So we have to fix it up.
Yeah, I just really enjoy the industry, and like I said, I don't know what I would be doing, and the fact that I'm still involved in it. I'm 62 this year. The fact that I've been in this thing since I was 17 years old is mind-boggling. And I'm still in it. I still consider myself part of the industry. Like I say, I stopped driving in 2006 professionally. I drove a 1972 cab over Mac the last year around the bend, and that's about it. I haven't really. I saw
that. I saw when you posted photos of that. That was pretty cool.
That was Chuck Snow's truck. He's got about 10 of them. Every time it's a nice day, I go, Chuck, I'm coming up. We just drive him around the block or whatever. He's in the country. It's a big block, but you know what? It's been so good, and I think. The reason that I don't share crashes and all those TikTok things that you see is not that I'm not trying to say, hey, they don't happen in our industry. I know they happen. I see them all the time. I see them, going down the 401. But I'm trying to be a positive voice for the industry because I've had a good career. I've made mistakes. I've had issues. I'm not one of these, drivers who never had an accident for 40 years. I wish I was. But even still, I worked for really good companies. I drove really good equipment. And I feel respected by the people that I worked for, the different companies I worked for. I moved on for different reasons. It wasn't because, I was laid off at one and that was about it. The rest of them, I moved on for different reasons, but they all treated me with respect. Like some of the stories you hear in the industry, I go, first of all, I understand they happen, but sometimes I question, and drivers, right? Like, and it's sometimes it's the road. You come in off the road, you're pissed off just because it's Friday. Nothing other than you've been in traffic all week and you're, snarly. And then you come off the road and you bite somebody's head off and you get fired, or something happened to you that really ticked you off. And that happens to all of us. But some drivers I find handle it poorly to start with, and then it just progresses into something else. Like some of the stuff I see drivers do, and I know you see them too, social media and some of the stuff happening at truck stop. I mean, I'm sure it was going on in our day, but boy, I didn't partake.
Yeah, well, I get the wanting to be positive and be optimistic. And I mentioned something about this on Twitter yesterday. Like, man, there's just so much bad news. We have to talk about something else. And as of this morning, I think trucking is going to get pushed out of the news cycle because we're now airstrikes in Iran and all that. But I share what you're saying. I worked for and you'll see it in my book. I worked for the Paddocks, legacy name in the business, totally a professional, probably one of the best trucking companies in the world, to my estimation, because now I've worked in 4 different countries and I can compare them. And they always treated me very well, always gave me my job back after I would go traveling somewhere. I worked for a really awesome guy, farmer dude in Alberta. I was basically an owner operator with somebody else's truck, if that makes any sense. I had to handle customer relations, maintenance, dispatch. It was all me. He just gave me the truck and said, go. If you need anything, call me. But if you can handle it yourself, don't call me. Right. So I know what it's like to work for really good people. And I know the professionalism and competency that these guys operate under. And I say to myself, why isn't everybody else working at this level? It can be done. You can operate at this professional level and treat people right and treat the industry right, treat the motoring public right, and just do things correctly. And that's not the case.
It's not the case. It's not the case. But we've got, I'm not going to, I get very upset when I see the trucking industry painted as a broad stroke, because there's so many good drivers like yourself and good companies and people that are doing things right. Like, how many of these guys, you go to Matt's, you were at Matt's last year, I think you were.
I've been to Matt's for 3 years in a row now. Yep.
And I missed you. I think 2022 was the last time I was there. I think my only time, and I want to come back down, but I'm going to leave that alone right now. But it's you. Look, Gordon. No,
turn off the TV, Bruce. You'll be fine. No, ice isn't going to come get you. Okay.
I got the kind of luck that I'll be going to the store to get a chocolate bar and get picked up by ice. So I'm not even. But that does, leave that alone. That's a whole. But what I'm saying is, when you go to Matt's, you see a lot of, look at all the show trucks we got. Look, you probably talked to a lot of those people in those booths. None of them are proposing some of the things we're seeing on TV or suggesting, So I go, no, I know that there's a lot of things wrong with the industry. I get that, but we're not all like that. Like and I'm trying to, it's getting more challenging every year. I will admit that, but we're not all like that. Like, there is a lot of great people. One of the reasons I love this industry is because of the people. When I look at all my friends today who are friends, most of them came from that industry.
Yeah.
So when I look at the people I've met since day one, none of my high school friends call me. I don't even know who they are, but but the people in this industry, some of the ones that I've kept in touch with and stuff, they're good people. They just, honest, hardworking people. And I really refuse to just, I don't know, I'll go to the dying to the grave saying, no, trucking is still good. I may be the only one. I don't know, but I'll still be going, because I do feel that. I do feel that trucking is a good opportunity for people. We need to change some things to make it a good opportunity for the future. And I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't have that answer, but I still think it's a good job for the right people. I've always made good money, and there are still a lot of good companies that are paying well and doing, you don't hear about them. Okay. So one of the conferences I attend every year and I'm part of as far as media is PMTC, which is the Private Motor Truck Council. Now I've worked for 2 private carriers in my career. The last one was 13 years, a chemical company. And those companies you don't hear about. You don't hear drivers complaining because their equipment is good, they're treated right, they're paid properly, they've got maybe set runs or whatever it is, but you don't hear the turnover, you don't hear the problems there. Where you do hear it is the other companies that are not doing things right, and they just kind of overtake all the rest that are doing things properly.
Yeah, well, it's economics, right? And I think that's one of the things we have to be open to discussing. And a lot of people don't like this because there's a lot of free market people in the trucking business. And, I spent a lot of time in the libertarian world and, I understand all that stuff. The problem is this, is that if there's a cheaper option, someone's always going to take it. And you cannot keep having cheaper options on the commons, right? Like our highways, interstates, the 400 series, all our roads and all that. That is the commons. It's owned by all of us. The government manages it. And you have to have a necessary minimum standards of operation on those commons. It's a safety issue. And because of economic forces always trying to scoop out all the value and get stuff done as cheap as possible, that creates incentives where people go on the road who are not operating to those standards. How do we fix that? I don't know. It's an ongoing conversation. But we need to have more of the kind of guys you meet at Matt's. And let me be blunt, okay? The truckers at Matt's are the 1%. They're the best, right? Like that party it's big, like 55,000 people go to it, but you go and you see the PKY Truck Beauty Championship and it's just all these show rigs. And then you see the American Truck Historical Society guys with all the old stuff. And then when you go inside and you see the displays, there's lots going on there, right? There's different vendors and services and all kinds of stuff. But when you actually see the trucking operators who are at Matt's, it's the 1%. Who do you not see at Matt's? The mega carriers don't go to Matt's. The constellation of scummy little companies that subcontract to Amazon and the post office and FedEx that are causing all these problems do not go to Matt's. The American Trucking Association as a corporate lobby group does not go to Matt's. So, Matt's is where you go to learn how to do things right, but then you turn and look at 90+% of the rest of the industry and go,
So do we let them win by just not? To me, it's like, we just had this discussion yesterday at the event. They're going, the marketing has always been trucking's worst. No, it's terrible. Nobody ever says anything good or, if it wasn't for us talking about it, nobody would be talking about trucking. Yet it's one of the biggest industries in North America. So why are we not talking about it? The real estate guys have more ads going than we do. So, it's like someone's got to talk about it. So I've chosen to talk about it and hopefully offer some information and that would help the next, if they're listening.
Yeah. The reason that trucking has kind of a PR problem is because all the guys that are good at it are busy working 60, 70 hours a week or trying to run businesses, and they don't have time for all this media nonsense that you and I engage in. And that's just basically it. Like everybody in trucking who's good at it is just busy all the time. And then other people get in. Like one of the things I've noticed online here, because of all the, collisions and troubles and stuff going on in the United States, is the sort of social media influencer case have shown up, and they blast out these dash cam videos and they do rage posting, and they make their Elon bucks from making everybody mad. And unfortunately, it's bad. It's bad PR for the rest of the industry, for the good guys, but it gets the attention of the political class in the United States. Without the sort of big guys that have hundreds of thousands of followers posting these videos, do politicians notice? I don't know. Maybe they notice less. So there's good and bad with the sort of PR stuff, right?
Yeah. I've just stayed away from. To me, it's not of interest for me to get into that. Seeing guys hang their butt out of the side of their trucks no interest in videotaping that. I know, for the ones who are trying to make money online, as far as, the YouTube pay and TikTok and all that stuff, that's a way, the more they get, that's how they get paid. So I understand that, because that's what people are interested in. But like you say, it's giving the wrong message for the industry. And that video, instead of posting it online, should be sent to that company and say, hey, here's what your driver's doing. Why don't you have a meeting and talk about this and correct it, as opposed to putting on social media and that guy doesn't even know he's being videotaped. And I don't know. I just
the problem in the US is that there's like, oh, we're gonna go and talk to this guy's human resources or safety manager. Well, you find out that there isn't one. He's working for a trucking company that has 4 trucks, that's registered to an apartment complex where there's no office. And the guy that actually owns the 4 trucks lives in Serbia or Kyrgyzstan and is beyond accountability and is directing all this traffic via the internet and Telegram groups. And then they're backdooring the electronic logging devices to make them work 20 hours a day via this thing that was supposed to clamp down on that and is now doing the opposite, right? So like it gets messy real quick, especially here.
I know. I mean, like I said, the event I was at the other day talking about Red Seal, there was 70 people in the room in Ontario, Canada. How big's the trucking industry? And there were 70 people in the room. And I actually talked to the deputy minister for Alberta. She was at the event, Lynn Vardy, and I asked her, I said, why don't they have questions about trucking on the test for the new drivers? My granddaughter, she's 15. She's going to get her license next year. I hope, I want her to see the trucking the way I see it and not as this big thing in front of her car. Why are they not having those kind of questions and training right from the start when someone's just learning to drive, so they understand how to drive around a truck? And then we get into the whole STEP program that you and I were talking about earlier. And she said, yeah, it's a good idea. Is anybody going to do it? No. What we're hearing more about, people signing licenses when someone doesn't even take a test. Like, we need to, I don't know, there needs to be a body in trucking. We've got, we got the Ontario Trucking Association. I never hear anything out of them. I don't even know who they are really for the most part, but we need a body that kind of polices underneath the ministry level to really, because if we don't do that, we're never going to have enough people to enforce some of the issues we have. I started back in the day when people were wearing ties. I wore a uniform with a clip tie when I was a mover, and you could take it down to a t-shirt. Tanker drivers back in the day, they all had uniforms. My last company, Elko, we had uniforms there. Like, that was the profession. That's part of the professionalism. Now, what do you see on the road? Holy smokes! I won't even get into the flip flop.
Yeah. Well, this is my thing too. One of the things I like to harp on about on Twitter. I don't, whatever the flip floppers. It's more like, guys, how hard is it to like wear a pair of jeans or work pants, cargo pants, something, collared shirt, short sleeve, long sleeve, whatever. Maybe you got to wear a jacket in the winter, but just look like you know what you're doing. It's not that hard, something I want to get back to something you said about starting off moving and trucking books. Have you ever read The Long Haul by a guy named Finn Murphy?
The Long Haul. No, I don't think I have.
All right, so write this down. Go look it up and order the book.
Okay.
So The Long Haul came out probably, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, something like that. Okay. And it's a memoir by a guy who was in the bedbug business, right? That's all he ever did was just shifting houses, and he became really, really good at it. And it's a sort of deeply philosophical memoir where this guy like gets into the sort of like headspace of the trucker, of the lifestyle, of all the different people he interacts with, because he's like a professional mover, and he would like move people who are worth millions of dollars and pianos and all that stuff. And
that name's familiar. I think I've listened to a podcast with that person. I'm not sure I read the book, but that name is very familiar. I've heard that name before.
Yeah, but you and Mr. Murphy share a similar backstory. You got into trucking and you were doing the bedbug stuff, and then he went from there and became an owner operator, and he like cracked the code of like figuring out how to make large amounts of money from moving people and just being awesome at it, coordinating all the movers, doing, the Tetris of getting everything in a trailer properly, the execution, the psychology of dealing with like really rich people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I tell people the moving industry is the best training you will ever get. If you've ever dealt with the public, you will understand that. And it's emotional when someone buys a house or leaves a house for whatever reason. I've had it where someone was splitting up and we had to load that truck so fast because the husband was coming home with a gun and he always came home for lunch, and like she pretended they weren't moving in the morning and then she was going to be gone by lunch. You've never seen a truck loaded so fast in your whole life, but it's, it was good because I learned how to load. I learned how to, deal with people and all that kind of stuff. It all came, every time I mention the moving industry, everybody looks at me like I got two heads, but it's probably one of the easiest ways to get started in trucking. And if you read about owner operators in the trucking industry, in the moving industry, the ones in the moving industry actually make some of the best money in the industry. They sit around longer, but they actually, because of the way they're paid and all that kind of stuff, and it's perfect for husband and wife teams because there's lots for each person to do. It's a really important part of the industry that's people don't look at.
Yeah, lots of people move around, and it's one of these sort of specialty niche areas. And like I say, trucking's got a very diverse array of industries it services, different members of the public. Everybody needs stuff moved, and the sort of bed bug guys, that they can and do make some pretty good coin if they're good at it.
There's more work. Back in my day, the reason I got out of that industry is you didn't work all winter. You worked in the summer. You never don't even ask for a day off in the summertime. Once it came like October, November, guys back in my day were shutting their trucks down. Like they didn't even start them up until March.
Yeah.
Now then, when I was leaving the industry, the trade show stuff was starting to get in, and technology and stuff, and so the guys were starting to get work in those off periods. But by then I moved over to, that's why I moved to the freight side of the business, because there just wasn't steady enough work back in the day in the moving industry.
There was a guy I worked with on the ice. He was a Newfoundlander, I think his name was Gerard, and he was a bed bug hauler. So he would do ice roads in the winter and bed bug hauling in the summer. Good dude, really, really top quality operator,
Yeah, they know their stuff.
Yeah. So hey, Bruce, here's let's see if my camera picks this up here. There's my book.
Oh, I like to see it. I like it. Send me some pictures of that book for the episode for sure. And I'm looking forward to reading that. Let me know when it's out. I'll get the copy for sure.
Yeah, no, like I say, if you're in the US, you can order it directly from creedandculture.com. Canada, Chapters Indigo. If you must, use Amazon. I prefer you didn't. They're part of the problem, but Amazon's not one of your sponsors, are they, Bruce?
No, they were last year for I think a month or two, but they're looking for owner operator. But hey, we're all using Amazon, so it doesn't really matter. My wife orders it, we order it. You can't not. I got to say, we're talking about professionalism in the industry. This goes to retail as well. I've been doing this whole shop local and all that. I've been doing that for years. The stores that I've been going into, like camera equipment and stuff, I use a chain up here that specializes in that. The last few times I've gone in, they barely give you the time of day. So for those of you that are going, okay, well, we don't want to go against Amazon stuff, you better up your game, because you go to the mall now, nobody looks at you. They don't care if you walk in. I go to stores and people don't even smile. They almost feel like you're interrupting them by walking into their store. So Amazon has made it very easy, and I'm not affiliated with Amazon as far as that goes, but they've made it very easy for people not to have to deal with people who don't seem to want them in their store. Yet everybody goes buy local. Well, buying local means you give me good service and I will come back. That's how.
Yeah, that's a cultural differentiator between Canada and the US that's been around for decades, and it's only got worse, where Americans are like very optimistic and chatty and friendly to a fault, and like you come in their store and it's like, what do we have to do to sell? They got the capitalist mindset. Canada and other Anglosphere countries, retail employees, what are you doing here? Why are you annoying me? And then, add on top of that the cultural malaise that Canada is currently undergoing, and it's just only getting worse. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's a shame because you want to go in, but I know, and I'm not a big shopper by any means, but when I go into a store, especially a store that I've spent thousands of dollars in before, you could at least now, like, they'll sell you whatever you're trying to get, but then they go. Like, none of them say, hey, you're buying a camera, would you like a lens? No, just take the camera, and then later you go, oh, I need a lens for it. Anyway, Gord, it's been a pleasure, man. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. Good luck with the book. You've been doing well. I don't know if there's any more questions before we go. I think we've been on for quite a while. So
Yeah, so for the Voice of Gord listeners, how do they find Bruce? How do they find the Lead Pedal? Where are you at?
Probably the easiest way. Well, if for the podcast, any of the social media, the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, and YouTube is our big platforms. Social media, we're on all of them. If you go to leadpedalmedia.com, it'll take you to our radio station, Lead Pedal Radio, Lead Pedal Podcast, and you can see all the stuff going on for sure.
Right, and Lead Pedal Podcast has been in operation since
2015, long time.
Yeah, 11 years. No, congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you. And the radio side's been on since 5 years, since the pandemic. So yeah. Where are people getting hold of you? Where should we go for you? I know we got End of the Road, your book. Where should people find the Voice of Gord?
So yeah, I'm on all the platforms too, Spotify, Apple. Even though it's an audio podcast, it goes to YouTube. I've done a couple of video ones that I posted there, but it just streams with like whatever the image is. Also my writings and stuff and the podcast are hosted at autonomoustruckers.substack.com. I'm on Twitter at Gord McGill, and that's it. And hopefully after this book does its thing and that cycle goes out, I will be there much less or off it entirely. I gotta move on and do other things in my life here. So but yeah, for now, you can find me at all those places.
That's awesome, Gord. Thanks for your time, man. It's always a pleasure talking with you, and good luck with the book and all the stuff you're doing. It's I'm watching from afar. Say hi to your dad.
Yeah, no, we got to have a coffee or a beer next time I come back to Canada. So
last time you came up, I think I was somewhere else. I'm not sure if you were. I know you connected with me, and I think we were missing each other because it's not that far. But hopefully, we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, man, thanks very much.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Way of the road.